Psalm chapter number 12. Psalm. There's no S at it though. It's a psalm. It's psalm. I'm saying psalm. It's not psalms. It's not psalms. There's no S at the end.
He's talking about a specific one, the 12th one.
Yeah, the 12th Psalm.
That's what he's talking about.
You're always picking on me.
No, I thought we got rid of this last week.
It'll come back around.
I know. It's never going to die out.
We like it clean shaven, by the way.
I don't know. I don't know if I like it yet. I look like a newborn baby. Newborn. I don't know. I may keep it for a while. I don't know. Summer's coming out. I want to be hot, or spring. So I don't know. I appreciate it though. I clean up. Don't know if I like it though. I don't know if I like it. That's okay. Psalm chapter 12. Book of Psalm this morning. I don't want to forget. We are working on our song books. March is going to be when we raise. My prayer is that we can get those books before Easter so that we can start off Easter right. Have the new song books. If you haven't looked at it yet, it's in the back. There's a sign there, and our goal is 1,400 around there so that we can get 100 books. We can get 2 spiral-bound books, and also just a couple extra, and then have our names, our Village Baptist Church engraved in the front. And then if you want to have in memory of someone, just make sure that you write it down. The sign-up sheet's in the back of your name and how many books you would like to purchase. They're $10 a piece for a song book with 585 pages of new songs. We've been learning some new ones Sunday night and been a blessing on Tuesday as well. So if you haven't, look at the book. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of new good songs in there, the old hymns. That's in the back again. If you want to contribute to that, you can just write your name, how many books you would like to, and then if you want to put one in memory of, they're $10 a piece. If you want to do it in memory of someone, then it's $11, so just an extra $1. But yes, ma'am.
You answered my question. I
Okay.
was talking about the $11, that over and above $10 cheaper.
Or you can give whatever you want. You don't have to just give 10.
That's $11 here
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
for one book.
Got it. Okay.
Where did you want to say it? Psalm what?
Psalm 12.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do y'all's way. Psalms 12.
There you go.
I was on page 2A.
Oh, it's okay. All right, Psalm chapter number 12. This morning, the Bible says, let's begin. Help, Lord, for the godly man ceaseth, for the faithful fall from among the children of men. They speak vanity, every one with his neighbor, with flattering lips, and with a double heart do they speak. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips, and the tongue that speaketh proud things. Who have said, with our tongue will we prevail, our lips are our own, who is Lord over us? For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord. I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in the furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Thou shalt keep them, O Lord. Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. The wicked walk on every side, when the vilest men are exalted. We look at this, last week we looked at Psalm chapter, I believe chapter number 8 of last week. And we just learned a couple of things from there. Psalm 12 now is different. David, if you look at the very beginning, when it says the chief musician upon that word, right? That word right there, Shemitah, Sheminith, I can't even say it. Does anybody want to whack at it? Probably close, right? So that word right there, it just means that David wrote this psalm on his harp, an 8-string harp. So David was sitting down and he was reminiscing, I believe, on his past, on things that had happened to him, even when he was underneath the king at the time. But David realized a couple of things. And here, David in verse number 1, he starts off by saying, help. Now, David, I don't believe he's in a world of trouble when he wrote this, but he was asking the Lord to help in a certain way. Why? Well, because verse number 2 and 3 come up and says what's going on. He calls for help. Lord, I need your help, Lord. Why? Well, because there's people around with flapping lips. There's people around that are flapping their gums. They're saying things that shouldn't be said. And so, Lord, I need your help. And so David is as he's strumming his harp and as he's playing music, first thing he starts off is by saying help. And I'm so glad that we have a God that in our time of need, he's there to help. He's there to answer our prayer. He's there to always get behind us and say, hey, I'm here for you. There's no need to worry. But he also says, help, Lord, for the godly man sees it. And that, when I was reading that really hit me hard. You know, David being a man after God's own heart, a friend of the Lord, and David himself, he saw around him. I felt in this passage, I feel like he felt alone. I believe this is where King Saul was going down and was a godly man and starting to decline a little bit because of his pride, because of his jealousy with David. So King Saul started to decline and used to be a good godly man, used to seek the Lord. And as King Saul saw David coming up, and he no longer was that. So David saw around him, as he was serving the Lord, he saw folks around him who weren't. And so as he's sitting there, he's asking the Lord for help, and he says, for the godly man seaseth. That word seaseth means to come to an end. David felt like there was no goodly or godly man around him. He felt alone. And it hit me hard because we live in a day and age where it's very hard to find a true godly man, a true godly woman. And so David here is saying, for the godly man seaseth. He comes to an end. Lord, I need your help. I can't find a godly man. Lord, I can't find a godly woman. I need your help. And so as David is singing and saying this, then he goes on. For they seize it, for the faithful from among the children of men. He's saying not only was the godly man gone, but also the faithful. The faithful. You know, if folks were actually faithful, there would be folks that would be here this morning for Sunday school. But we, in the day and age, faithfulness is no longer in folks' vocabulary. I believe there's folks who they go off and do their own thing, and God's second class to them, and there's no faithfulness. I wrote down Proverbs chapter number 20, if you want to go over there. Proverbs chapter 20. The Lord is very clear on how you and I would need to be faithful, and how it's important for God's people to be faithful. Because I said last week, folks who are looking up to us, they see us and we're not being faithful in the Lord's house, if we're not proclaiming the Lord's name, and yet we look about our lives and we find, we get mad at other folks who are not on time or not faithful, and yet what are we doing? And so David is searching and looking in verse number 6. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, the Bible says this: most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? Even in the book of Proverbs, where Solomon is speaking to his son, who can find a faithful man? Are there any faithful people around here nowadays? And so we look at that, but instead of faithful, we have men who like to proclaim themselves, men who like to exalt themselves, people who just like to bring themselves up. So David in verse number 1, he's saying, Lord, help. That help means to save. Lord, save me, help me, Lord. For the godly man sees it, he's coming to an end. There's none, I can't find a godly man, but not only that, but a faithful person, who can find one? And they're gone among the children of men, meaning here on earth, we are the children of God, but the children of men are those who are here among the world and not living for the Lord, but the children of men. They need us. the faithful. They need godly people. In order for us to go forward in our lives, we need more godly and faithful people. And so David is looking and asking, Lord, I need your help. Lord, I feel I'm the only one doing this. I feel like I'm the only one that is godly or giving my life over to you. Lord, I'm serving you. Lord, I'm trying to be faithful as possible, but I can't find anybody else who's doing that. And so could that be said with us? If we honestly examine our lives and look at ourselves, could we say we're faithful? Could we say that we are that godly person that David here was looking for? Could we say that honestly? So David starts off honestly with a big bang, right off from the front, and honestly convicted my heart. A godly man sees it. You know, we don't need less godly people, but we need more godly people. You look at the day and age we live in and what's happening in our states and around the world, we need more godly people who can get a hold of the throne of God, who can get the attention of God and just pray and get a hold of Him. But it doesn't just take that, but it also takes faithfulness. You have to be faithful. It's the same thing like a marriage. When we're married, when we're saved, we're married to Christ, and we're His bride, and He's the groom. And so we look at that, and if you are faithful to your spouse, what makes you think you don't have to be faithful to our Lord? It's just that easy, honestly. It's so simple. But we have to be faithful. We have to be faithful for all that God has done for us. Honestly, think about it. All the blessings we talked about this morning, about our salvation. You know, there's just something about being faithful. So David starts off by that big bang. A godly man ceases for the faithful from among the men. So look at those, verse number 2. They speak vanity, everyone with his neighbor. With flattering lips and with a double heart do they speak. David now, he said all that stuff, and he's saying, okay, a godly man can't find that, a faithful person can't find that. Lord, all they do is talk. All they do, it's nothing to proclaim your name, but Lord, it's to bring down your name. They bring themselves up. And we learn from that's a dangerous place to be, where you get to a point where you lift yourself up and exalt yourself, and then you bring the Lord down. That's a dangerous place to be in. And so David was around all this. David was around folks who were double-minded, like it was saying here in James chapter 1, verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And David is saying, around the king, Lord, King, we love you. King, we want to honor you and please you and glory you. And then around the other friends are like, man, I can't stand King. I can't stand him. And so David is talking, and he's between all of this because David, a godly man, a faithful man, now is between two things. Folks who are talking bad about the king and people who are, and he is right below the king. And so David is in hearing all of this, and to his surprise, he's like, why is this going on? Why is this happening? And that brings us back into our, where we are today with even out of church and in church. Right? We live one way in church, and out of church we live a separate life. And that's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be consecrated all to the Lord. Our lives, we should be the same way in church as we are outside of church. So when folks see us, they look at us and say, hey, there's something different about them. There's something that I want that they have, and I want it. And so David is saying here that with a double heart do they speak. And he's saying, they're this way one day, and then the other day they're this way. And so he's asking for help. Verse number 3. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips. That word cut off just means he's going to destroy all them who have flattering lips. And the tongue that speaketh proud things. That word proud means great things. That speak of themselves. Those folks, David is speaking of that one day, the folks who don't humble themselves and turn themselves over to the Lord and say, Lord, I need you for salvation. I need you, Lord. That's something we all have done. We've all humbled ourselves saying, I can't get myself there. I can't get to heaven on my own. I'm nothing but filthy rags. But David is saying here, for those folks who exalt themselves and put the Lord down and don't humble themselves, the Lord's going to cut them off. The Lord is going to take away those flattering lips. There's going to be a day when they're no longer going to be talking. there's going to be a day when they're no longer going to be here, but instead, they're going to be spending eternity in a place called hell. They're going to be there for the rest of their life because of their pride, because of their talking, because of their unbelief. In verse number 4, who hath said, with our tongue will we prevail? Our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us? No, that's the day and age we live in today. Who's Lord over us? The churches that are now coming up, it's no longer about the Lord, but it's about them. They're the church. No. They're God. Hey, focus on yourself, not on God, but focus on you. That's not the thing. My wife and I, we've encountered a lot living in Evansville. There were tons of churches that were building up, and mega churches and things. And honestly, folks were going to church just to feel good about themselves. And that's why they were going to church. They went into church one way and came out the same way. That's not what church is about. When you go into church, you should go in feeling maybe you had a long week and you feel the oppression of Satan all week, and feeling the energy of Satan and feeling just the oppression. And then when you come to church, all that should be lifted up. But with some folks, they walk into church and they go in and say, well, I'm going to do my praise and worship and make it all about me, Lord. Just it's about me and all this. And then they leave church and nothing's changed. But they feel like they have because, well, they went to church. And so in verse number 4, he talks about how our lips are our own. And how many folks really say, well, my life, it's my life. I'll live my life the way I want to. These are my lips. I'll say whatever I want to say. These are my ears. I'll listen to whatever I want to listen to. These are my eyes. I'll look at what I want to. That's what we're living in today. We're living in that day where folks now, it's no longer about God, but it's about them. It's about exalting themselves and putting down God. And so they go on by saying, who is Lord over us? We don't have a God. But I have to focus on me. It's about me. And David is from verse number 1. He's saying, Lord help, Lord save. These folks have no idea what they're saying. These folks have no idea what's to come. They have no idea what hell is like. They have no idea by them lifting themselves up and putting you down. They have no idea what their life is, what's entailed in their life. And so go on and who is Lord over us. And I wrote down 1 Corinthians chapter number 6. If you would like to turn there, please. 1 Corinthians chapter number 6. We can't forget, though many folks say, on my own. Our lips are our own. They're my lips. This is my life. This is what I do. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 20. For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. We can't forget the bodies that we have. The Lord, we are bought with a price. We are not our own, but the Lord, He owns us. We are His slaves. We are His servants. We don't belong to us. And when you understand that and really take that in and really see it as that, Jesus, God sent Jesus Christ down on the cross for my sin. You know what? I owe Him everything. I owe Him my life. But we have to understand we are bought with a price. What was that price? The shedding of blood. That was the price He paid for us. He did that for all of us. And so we are not our own. Who is Lord over us? God. He's the Lord over us. Verse number 5. For the oppression of the poor, for the sighings of the needy, for now will I arise, saith the Lord. I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. The Lord is saying there, for those who humble themselves, for those who not just poor physically, but poor of heart, meaning those who humble themselves, and knowing that they can't do anything without me. Those folks who are in dire need and have accepted Christ as their personal Savior and accepted me, then will I put safety for them and protect them from those who puffeth at them, meaning those who talk back and speak bad about them and say things that don't really matter. But the Lord will put safety about them. And so we can't forget that, but don't forget that the Lord protects us, He loves us. And though there may be folks who look at us and think we're crazies or that we're doing all this for nothing, just remember that there is a day coming. And who will have, I don't want to say the last laugh, but we know that we are on the winning side. We know that there is coming a day when no heartache shall come, no more clouds in the sky, no more tears to dim the eye, but forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be. And you think about that, and I hope that brings safety to our hearts, knowing that though we may get oppressed by this world and folks, that hey, we're in safety. The Lord has us. There's no one going to pluck us out of His hands. And though we may face those things here on earth, in heaven, it's going to be all joy. It's going to be worshiping God and around His feet and casting our crowns there. And so David speaks of that, and then verse number 6, the words of the Lord are pure words. Now, though David was saying there may be folks who are speaking bad of us and speaking bad of the Lord, he said, well, the Lord's words are pure words. As silver tried in the furnace of earth, purified 7 times. You know, there's nothing negative, there's nothing vulgar that comes out of the Lord's mouth, but it's all pure words. He speaks truth. He exalts Himself, but He also brings forward the things that we need. And the things that we also in our lives, we need to understand that if we are Christians, our words should be pure words as well. They shouldn't be tearing down other folks. They shouldn't be in church, you say something, and then out of church you disagree with something, and you become a busybody and start talking about things you don't like. That's not what we should do. But have them to be pure words. Pure words that are tried in the fire. They are purified 7 times. That no longer you think before we speak, but understand too that the Lord Himself, there's no negativity that comes from Him, but they're all pure words. Thou shalt keep them, verse number 7, O Lord, Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. What words was He talking about here? Well, I believe the word of God. How He's going to preserve them for generation and generation and generation. Though the world today tries to pervert this word of God, they make different versions and they bring about different things and try to put their words in God's words. You know something? God's word will stand. God's word will be preserved. There's nothing we can do we can pervert God's word, but this word is going to stay along forever. It's a promise for generation to generation to generation. And how important it is for us as God's people to keep that in our heart, to understand that we have a responsibility, that this word needs to be in our hearts. We need to meditate on this because there's the day we live in. Nobody knows what this is anymore. Nobody understands God's words. It's all their life, what they do. And so how important it is for us to share that with folks, to share the gospel, to tell them about a Lord who died on the cross for them. So His words are pure words. Thou shalt keep them. Keep them. Keep the words of the Lord close to us. Cherish this. Treasure it. Don't think of this as, well, I'll take it out Sunday and not open it the rest of the week. Because we have to understand, we are entrusted with this. Not the angels, but we are. We have a responsibility. And so His word will preserve them from this generation forever. And then verse number 8, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest man are exalted. And I wrote down, this all happens, verse number 8 occurs because of verse number 1. When the godly man disappears and comes to an end, and when the faithful people just say, yeah, I'm not going to be faithful anymore to the Lord. There's just so much that happened to me, I'm no longer going to live for the Lord. Then this is what happens. The vilest men are exalted. When the godly people disappear and no longer want to serve the Lord, guess what's going to happen? The bad are going to be exalted. And so we understand, we complain about, well, it wasn't like this when I was a kid. Our kids could play outside and I could just walk out and we didn't have to worry about this. And we didn't have to worry about vaping and drugs. Well, drugs are all over, but how it is now with opioids and heroin and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have to worry about that. Divorce is on a high rate now, and folks leaving, no longer being faithful. And we complain about all that stuff, but you know why that happens? Because of the fact that there are no godly men and women. We complain about it, but it's so true. Are you doing your very best to read, to pray, to get a hold of people, to invite folks to church? Are you doing your best? Where are the godly people? That's what David is calling for. If you think we live in a bad day, if you think we live in a day and age where it's bad and it's evil, well, it's because there's no godly people. And that should be, honestly, that should prick our hearts. There are no godly people. Now, I could remember all the early 1900s where they're having all these great revivals breaking out. And today, as we live in 2020, I'm 26, I haven't seen a revival break out anywhere. Why is that? Because of our hearts. We've become cold. We've become apathetic to this whole thing. Oh, well, I have to go to church because I have to. I've been going since I was a kid, so I have to go. But where are the godly people? But not just the godly, but where are the faithful? Those who are going to stick it out no matter what. Those who are going to just put their foot in and say, I'm going to be rooted in this. I'm not going to move. I'm just going to stay rooted. I'm going to be faithful. Why am I going to be faithful? Why? Because there are people out there who need us. We need to stay faithful to the Word. We need to stay faithful on our knees. We need to be faithful in the Lord's house. We need to be faithful of telling folks about the gospel, because that's our job. We have to stay faithful. And if we don't want when the vilest men are exalted, when the wicked walk on every side, we don't want wicked things encountering our church and our community, our village, our county, then it's time for us It's time for us to get godly. It's time for us to get faithful. And stop with the complaining. We can complain all we want, but are we doing something about it? Are we praying for Mount Morris? Are we praying for our nearby villages? Are we praying for our county and the surrounding county? Are we doing those things? Because it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to do those things. Those folks who are not saved, they don't know any better. They don't know any better. They're ignorant to their sin. But I think of the verse, if my people that are called by my name shall humble themselves. You understand? My people that are called by my name. He's talking to us. If we want to have a revival break out again, it's our jobs. If we don't want the wicked walking on every side, it's our job. We need to be praying. We need to be fasting and getting in the Word of God and telling folks about those things, because it's important. So the next time you think about it, or if I think, man, I can't believe this is going on, this is so evil, and I think about my heart. But what am I doing about it? Am I doing all that I can? Am I being faithful enough? Am I doing everything possible in order for the Lord to continue to work? Continue to work. Continue to work. And so David here he starts off by that word help. And that right there got my attention, because that's in all caps for me. It's in all caps. Help. He's saying, Lord, save. Lord, save. Why? Because we're in that time where it's getting darker. It's getting to a point where it's not easy for us to live, but those are the greatest days. Because how much better can our light shine in the darkest days? When we can just say, you know what, Lord, I'm going to be that godly person that you want me to be. Lord, I'm going to be that faithful person that you want me to be. And so that light just shines bright. And then when that light shines, it's hard to contain that light, honestly. It's hard to contain it. And then you get back on fire for God. I'm going to preach from that this morning, on fire for the Lord. And so David here in Psalm chapter 12, I think for me it's a wake-up call for all of us, for God's people, that we need to be godly, but we also need to be faithful. Because if we're not, the wicked are going to come up and walk on every side, and then the vilest men are exalted. Those folks who are so wicked, they're just going to exalt themselves, and then you think it's bad now. Just think if we decide to walk away from God, if we decide not to be faithful, Just imagine what this world's going to be like if the Christian just says, I'm quitting, I'm done. So let's just keep that in mind this morning. Be godly, be faithful, continue just living for the Lord. And I know our church does that. I know we have a church full of folks who pray. My wife, she comes home from the ladies' Bible study and she said, we didn't get a lot done studying, but boy, we were praying. And that's important. I believe it is. Just praying for folks and getting a hold of God. Why? Because that's what this world needs. It doesn't need another person to come up and say, well, this is how church is supposed to be. No, it just needs godly people and faithful people. And I thank you all for that. So just remember that this morning, Psalm chapter 12. I'm done. We'll pray. Lord, thank you for this one. Lord, help me. Lord, how convicting it was in my heart, Lord, to learn of this, Lord, that the wicked are exalted, Lord, because the godly have decided to walk away. They decided to come to an end. And Lord, they're no longer faithful. And Lord, I just ask that you help us to remember that. Lord, that it's our job to continue the work that you have for us. Lord, that for us to continue to live and be godly and humble ourselves before you. Lord, because this world needs us. Lord, this world needs you. And Lord, I just ask that you help us, Lord, as we live our life. Lord, we thank you again for the folks who came out this morning. Lord, we ask that you be with the Morris family this morning. And Lord, that you'll continue being with the father and the two girls in critical condition. Lord, that you'll be with the church, Lord, that they went to. Lord, help them to get behind them and help them as much as possible. And Lord, this morning I thank you again for the sunshine, for the folks who came out, Lord, and our fellowship to come, and the Lord's Supper this afternoon. Lord, I'm just excited to see what you're doing here. Be with us, be with the main service, help visitors to come. In your name we pray. Amen.